What is going on, everyone? Let's talk about Michigan. Michigan has a few nicknames: the Great Lakes State, the Mitten State, and the Wolverine State. Michigan touches 4 of the 5 Great Lakes and also has about 64,000 inland lakes and ponds. A person in the state of Michigan is never more than 6 miles away from a natural water source or more than 85 miles away from a Great Lakes shoreline. Michigan is a great state filled with hardworking people and amazing natural beauty. Unfortunately, most of the country only hears about Flint and Detroit, and that's too bad. Michigan has a lot to offer someone who's looking for a new place to live. But before you buy a maize and blue scarf and start catching games at the big house, you should watch my top 10 reasons not to move to Michigan. Number 10. Strange laws. Michigan has some of the strangest laws on the books of any state. Most of them are not enforced or have been repealed, and they probably wouldn't be something that would stop you from moving here. It just kind of shows you how these people think and how they used to think. Here's 2 of my favorites. No man shall seduce or corrupt an unmarried girl, or else risk 5 years in prison. Luckily, this one really isn't enforced. You might be arrested while out on a Tinder date. Imagine that, being arrested, cops putting you in your car, telling you should have swiped left, dude. Let's say you do break the law, seduce this young lady, and eventually marry her. Michigan has another law. A law that forces women to ask the permission of her husband before she cuts her hair. Repression in its truest form. Number 9. Obesity. Michigan is the 8th chubbiest state in the United States, with an obesity rate of 28.8%, which I understand. It gets cold up there. Skinny people are not made for cold weather. When I see an overweight person in the snow, I think there's someone that plans ahead. Number 8. Depopulation. Michigan was overcrowded in the 1990s. Now it's one of the only states that has seen a decrease in its population between 2000 and 2010. A good portion of this exodus comes from Detroit and Flint, Michigan. To some people, this is a good thing. Keeps your rent and your home prices down. To people that own businesses like retail and restaurants, this is not a good thing. It's even worse if you're trying to collect taxes. If you watch my Detroit neighborhoods video, you know that parts of Detroit are a frickin' ghost town right now. Number 7. The cold. There's no doubt Michigan is cold. The record lowest temperature was minus 51 degrees in 1934. A friend who grew up in Grosse Pointe told me he remembers walking to school, and as he pulled off his beanie when he got to school, he felt his ears and hair tug because it had become frozen to his beanie in the 10-minute walk to school. Michigan, especially Upper Michigan, are far too cold to be a reasonable place for anyone to move. But if you're unreasonable and like to suffer, by all means, enjoy. Number 6. Unemployment. The unemployment rate in Michigan hit 9% during the recession. It was the 3rd worst in the country. Recently, they've been making some serious improvements by creating jobs at a higher rate than the national average. Right now, according to the Bureau of Statistics, they are at 4.7% unemployment, making them 43rd worst in the nation, which, considering they used to be 49th, they've made some progress. Detroit itself is still flirting with that 10% area, which is bad, really bad. The lesson here is, if you move to Michigan, don't move to Detroit looking for work. Number 5. Tornadoes. There's an average of 17 tornadoes a year in Michigan and the occasional water spout on the Great Lakes. Now, this has made my list the last 4 or 5 videos while I've been doing the Midwestern states, and probably because I've witnessed a tornado and it scared the hell out of me. Now, keep in mind, I've been in a hurricane, several serious earthquakes, worked a forest fire, and was in the LA riots during my time in the military. I also dated a bipolar Lebanese Italian girl that had a temper. And I can tell you the tornado I witnessed was the scariest thing I've ever dated. Witnessed. Yeah, witnessed. Imagine if I dated a tornado, it might have been more pleasurable than dating the Italian Lebanese girl. Moving on. Number 4. Lazy communicators. One of the first things you're going to notice about Michigan natives is the way they talk. They like to drop syllables and sometimes drop whole first words completely. They don't ask for a cold one, they ask for a coal one. Coal, like in a little chunk of black rock that heats things. They lost the D. Kind of, again, they lose the D and just go with kinda. Soda, of course, is pop. And they can't even be bothered to say Lake Michigan. They say the Big Lake. Lake Michigan is not that hard to say. And if you read the comments on my Detroit's Worst Neighborhood video, besides these people being a little delusional about the current conditions of their city, they can't even be bothered to type in the whole word though. They keep saying doe, as in D-O-E, as in doe, a deer, a female deer. Ray, the guy who fixed my transmission. Yes, that was a Sound of Music reference. Number 3. Construction season. Michigan residents joke about summer being the construction season because you can't go anywhere in the state during summer without running into some form of construction. Roads being repaired, buildings closing roads so they could actually build the building, new roads being constructed, the Empire building a new Death Star. It all happens between May and August, it seems. One cool thing only Michigan would do, they're building a bridge, and they're naming it after a hockey player. Sure, he's one of the greatest hockey players of all time, but this is an honor that normally goes to politicians or someone like that. Shows you how far politics has gone downhill. They're actually naming a bridge after a hockey player that was known for fighting as much as his skill. The Gordie Howe Bridge will be, I think it's under construction right now, or it's getting ready to be. Number 2, Detroit and Flint, Michigan. Detroit is and has been in bad shape for years. That's all well documented, and me going over it probably wouldn't be anything most people didn't already know. So, no point in doing that. The good news about Detroit is it is starting to show some signs of a turnaround, and really it was once a great city with great people, and hopefully it can pull that out. But if you're looking for a new place to move in Michigan, probably want to stay away from Detroit still. Now, Flint is its own piece of a nightmare city. The Flint water crisis began in 2014 when city officials decided to save a buck and switch the water source for the city from Lake Huron to the cheaper Flint River. Due to toxic water and insufficient treatment, over 100,000 residents were exposed to high levels of lead in the drinking water. Now, this turned into years of lawsuits. Some are still ongoing. Study after study have proven that this was a dick move by city officials. People have been losing jobs because of this, and health problems will probably be hearing about those for decades to come. Now, this is where it gets crazy. In 2017, the city of Flint started foreclosing on people's homes who hadn't paid their water bill in some time. Okay, so they sold them toxic water and wanted to get paid for it? Does that make sense to anyone? This is like going to McDonald's, ordering a Big Mac. Instead of getting meat in the Big Mac, they give it to you with an old sponge, replacing the meat. Then they punch you in the face. And when you refuse to pay, they impound your car. It's the same system. Flint is a nightmare of epic proportion. Whatever you could do, don't move to Flint. And number 1, home values. In this day and age, a low home price is a good thing. Prices have been on the rise since the recession ended, and it's getting harder and harder to buy a home. In Detroit, you can find homes with boarded up windows for under $3,000. Now that is a great price, until you consider what you might be getting for that price. In life, really, really low prices are something you want, unless of course it's real estate or plastic surgery. Imagine getting a tummy tuck for $75. When it's all said and done, your belly button appears to be on your hip, and that's kind of what you get if you're spending $2,500 on a home in Detroit. Alright, so that's the top 10 reasons not to move to Michigan. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget all the links below. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.